Everybody, this is John Felt. Welcome to the NCGA Valent Ag Weather Outlook for October 9th, 2016. Well, as you know, the big weather story over the last week was Hurricane Matthew. I'm going to first of all show you the track here. You can see the track. Red is when it was a hurricane, and currently it's going to be moving off out into the open Atlantic. So we're pretty much wrapping up the heavy rain and the wind. But as I often say, that precipitation sometimes is the biggest part of these events. And I know we were very focused on the wind, and there were some wind impacts, especially down in Florida, the east coast of Florida, southeast Georgia, South Carolina coast. But really, I think when we look at the damage here, it's going to be a water impact, a storm surge, and inland heavy rainfall and flooding. And if you look at the areas of purple here, that's over 10 inches of rain. And if you look at these little spots here, these light gray spots, that's nearing 15 inches of rain. And anywhere in red is even over 5 inches of rain. So this was a very widespread heavy rain event that pushed up into the Carolinas and somewhat reminiscent of Hurricane Floyd. I was involved in that event, and when I worked for the National Weather Service, I remember there was a lot of focus over Florida, and there wasn't as much further north. Now, this time I believe there was, but the story was the flooding. So like I said, it is forecast to move off out into the Atlantic, the path here. So I think what we're going to have here very quickly is we will be having the rain pushing off, and the flooding will continue for a while over parts of the mid-Atlantic states. But other than the rainfall from Matthew, what we see is just some light to moderate rainfall over parts of the Midwest, the Corn Belt. We're generally in a situation we don't need a whole lot more. We're still in harvest time season, and many fields are wet in spots, but there is a lot of variability. But you can see parts of Iowa, parts of Minnesota received an inch or two of rain over the last week. Now, the southeast U.S. has been unusually dry, and there's a lot of emerging problems and continuing problems due to drought. Wasn't any improvement at all last week. No rain whatsoever in the southeast U.S., with the exception of the coastal areas that received the rainfall from Matthew. Now, there are quite a few spots in flood. The minor flooding is the orange, and that's usually not that big a deal. But the bigger deal are the areas circled in red, and a really big deal is purple. So eastern North Carolina and a few other spots in South Carolina and Virginia are really going to be hit hard with major flooding, and that's that area in purple. And that will be arriving over the next, from anywhere from today out through the end of the week, depending on where you are. Coastal rivers right near the coast, it'll be later this week. So soils remain quite wet in spots and quite dry in spots. The areas that are quite wet, these areas in the Midwest have received soaking rains over the last 2 to 3 weeks. Areas that received the heavy rain from Matthew, and this isn't all showing up yet. This will show up more over the next couple of days. These graphics, there's a little bit of a delay. And then we have the dry areas, the southeast U.S. It's been expanding and growing, the northeast U.S., and then the western U.S. So we have strong anomalies of soil moisture with areas quite wet, areas quite dry. Drought monitor shows very well those dry areas. Red is extreme, and if you look at it closely, you can begin to see some exceptional drought, D4, highest category of drought in the western U.S., parts of California. And if you look at Georgia, we see that D3 drought in parts of Georgia and surrounding states. Now, temperatures last week really were variable. I told you we were going to have a quick shot of cool air, and it did move in, but it averaged out a bit above normal over most areas because we started out quite warm. Okay, here's the jet stream for this week, and it basically is flowing from west to east. Not a whole lot of energy in this type of pattern. I do want to mention that it's pushing very strongly into Pacific Northwest, and that's going to enhance the onshore flow in that area. But everywhere else, fairly normal type pattern. So when we're looking at temperatures this week, fairly normal for this time of year, maybe even a bit above normal in spots, but really pretty much close to normal over most of the Corn Belt. As far as precipitation, I think the rainfall from Matthew will very quickly be pushing off. We're going to have enhanced rainfall on the western and Pacific Northwest coast. Very heavy rain above an inch in this region, and even several inches in higher elevations. This is saying 11 inches in this region, 8 inches here. So when we get those type of rainfall amounts, we expect some significant impacts as far as potential for flash flooding and debris flows. In the middle part of the nation, some heavy rain, moderate rain, I guess you could say, here and there, but overall a very quiet week, and unfortunately for the southeast U.S., no rain whatsoever this week. Now, if we get out to the period this is October 14th through 19th, what we have here is we begin to see this ridge of high pressure working up. This is through the 6 to 10 day range. So the first 5 days near normal, then this begins to push up. Again, there's not much energy going to be in this type of flow, and we have well above normal temperatures. So starting off, pleasant fall-like temperatures. Then as we get into that 6 to 10 day period, really ramping temperatures up and warming up. Then as we get from the 19th to the 24th, we have a little bit more complicated jet streams, and my confidence isn't so high. It's a split jet stream, so we can get some energy in the southern branch possibly. But right now, models are holding temperatures well above normal as we go out through the 11 through 15 day range. As far as precipitation goes, the southeast U.S., very dry over the first week. Everywhere else, say near normal, but I think it's going to be pretty quiet, but this time of year is usually pretty quiet. And then week 2, not much change. Unfortunately, it looks like not much rain, well below normal again over the southeast U.S. I just don't see any change in that region. Over the Corn Belt, I think it's going to be fairly quiet and warm and quiet during week 2. And then a glance at week 3 and 4, it's saying that temperatures above normal, precipitation below normal. So we're really going in a pattern here once we sort of, next first 2 or 3 days of pleasantly cool mornings and mild days. I think we're getting into a very mild pattern above normal temperatures and generally a quiet precipitation type pattern. And for the southeast U.S., I just don't see anything significant as far as rainfall on the horizon right towards the end of the month right now. I'm sure we'll get some light precipitation, but this first week, nothing at all. Second week, I'm not impressed with much. And weeks 3 and 4 looks below normal as well over the southeast U.S. Hope you all have a great week, and it looks like it'll be, from a national perspective, a lot quieter than last week when we had Hurricane Matthew.